Hello, everyone. I hope you are doing well. Welcome to this introductory session for the paper Advanced Audit and Assurance for the September 2021 and the December 2021 examination session. Let me give a brief introduction about myself. My name is Luqman Rafiq. Walaikum Assalam, Fatma Risana. My name is Luqman Rafiq, and I am the tutor for this paper Advanced Audit and Assurance. The syllabus, what you could see in front of you is actually the syllabus for the paper AAA. And you could see that this is an updated syllabus for the September 2021 to the June 2022 examination sessions. Let me have a quick introduction about this specific paper of AAA. So if I could just give you a bit of an introduction about it. So you see, what actually happens is that there are papers which actually have got connection to it. One of them is an F8 paper, and there is a paper F7, and there's another paper SBR. These three papers actually have got a connection with this Advanced Audit and Assurance paper. Now, let me guide you one more thing, which is basically this AAA paper, as per the stats that I have actually got from the ACCA also, it's one of those papers that's the most attempted option out of the various options that are available to the students. Yet, unfortunately, the pass rate for this paper is approximately between 30 to 36%. That's how the pass rate is in the past. Now, what is it that actually leads to this specific pass rate of 30 to 36%? A lot of students actually read it like this, that approximately 1 out of every 3 student passes. But I usually have a different way of explaining it. And I would rather say that usually a student passes this paper in the third attempt. Well, this is not different for the other papers also, for the other optional papers, whether you go for the APM paper, whether you go for the AFM, or whether you go for the ATX, it's more or less the similar type of pass rate that actually prevails. So now what is it that actually causes the pass rate for this AAA paper to be very low? So I'm going to guide you about this. To me, there are actually two major reasons for the pass rates to be low. And what are those two major reasons for the low pass rates? One of them is basically the lack of financial reporting knowledge. The lack of financial reporting knowledge, that is one of the reasons. And the second thing that actually happens is that, I repeat, the second reason for this is that the students have got poor drafting skills. They have got poor drafting skills. These are the two major reasons for this specific AAA paper to have got a poor pass rate. Now, what is it? So first, try to understand when we are actually auditing, what are we auditing? We are actually auditing the financial statements. So if you are auditing the financial statements, that means what is it that you need to do? You need to make sure that you need to understand that whatever the requirements of the IFRS which are being used to prepare these financial statements, are those IFRS being correctly applied or not? So remember this thing, that the audit starts where accounting ends. I repeat, audit starts where the accounting ends. So I repeat, the audit starts where the accounting ends. Now, try to understand one thing. So if you actually have to do the audit, that means you should have a good financial reporting knowledge. And the examiner, what he does is that he actually examines this financial reporting knowledge in depth at this AAA paper. Why does he examine this accounting standard knowledge in depth at this AAA paper? The reason behind that is he would actually ask you different type of scenarios in which the different circumstances of the different accounting standards would be applicable. And the accounting standards would be the advanced level accounting standard that you would have usually studied at the SBR. They could be the FR level papers also, like IS 20, IS 19. There could actually be the group accounts also. So, but generally what would happen is that there are going to be these different types of accounting standards, and their application to the auditing scenarios would be examined, would be applicable for your circumstances. So one of the reasons for the students having a poor pass rate is that there is a lack of financial reporting knowledge. How exactly are we going to cover up this specific area? So what I've actually done is that I've prepared the summaries. I prepared the summaries of the accounting standards. And in addition to preparing the summaries for the accounting standards, what I have also done is that, I mean, that would be made available to you because those videos are in the recording process right now. I've actually linked them to the audit scenarios. So I've linked them to the audit scenarios. All in total would be around approximately 8 to 10 hours of the lectures. They would all in total be around 8 to 10 hours of the lectures. But those 8 to 10 hours of the lectures would actually make sure that you are able to understand. I repeat, that would make sure that you are able to understand that what are the different accounting standards, what are the requirements of the different accounting standards, and how those accounting standards requirements are applicable in the given scenario, are applicable in the auditing circumstances. So that is something that you would be going through. The second is the poor drafting skill. Now, this is a biggest problem for the students. I repeat, this is the biggest problem for the students. Why? Because the students, they don't know how to draft the answer. Because when you are writing down an audit paper, you need to be able to write down the answers to the risk scenarios. You need to write down the answers for the scenarios where you have to draft the procedures, etc., etc. There have to be different type of situations that you have to deal with as a student of auditing. And for that, you need to have very good, I repeat, for that, you need to have very good drafting skills. And unfortunately, the students lack that. So for this, what I would recommend, what I would suggest you people to actually perform assignments for each chapter, perform assignments for each chapter or for each topic rather, I would say, and you would have to submit them to me. So you would have to perform the assignments for each of the chapter or the topic, and you would have to submit them to me. What I would do is that I would check them through, I would mark them, I would give you a feedback on them, that what exactly have you done with respect to it. So I personally think that if during a period of the 3 months till the examination, if we do approximately 6 to 10 scenarios, if we do 6 to 10 assignments, it would inshallah be able to, you'll be able to enhance your drafting skills a lot, because then you would be getting a personalized feedback. Then you would be getting the personalized feedback of these. So this is actually going to help you out. Okay, so basically these are the two major reasons, and I have told you that how exactly would I be covering these two specific areas that usually are the major reasons for the failure of the students. If I could just move a bit forward, and if I could just show you the connection of this specific paper of AAA with the other syllabus. So you could see that it has got a connection with what? There's a strong connection between this F8, and at the same time, along with F8, they've got a strong connection with this SBR paper. So because what happens is that the auditing starts where the accounting ends. Auditing starts where the accounting ends. So in order to be a good auditor, you need to be a good accountant. I repeat, in order to be a good auditor, you need to be a good accountant. So basically, what do we need to do? We need to have this thing in mind, that we need to know that what are the accounting standards, how are these accounting standards applicable to the given scenario, and we need to plan accordingly. So this is what the connection is. The method of examination, the way the paper is examined is that you've got section A. I repeat, you've got section A, and under the section A, what actually happens is that you've got a 50-mark question. that question usually comprises 2-3 areas of the syllabus. Usually one of the areas is about the risk. One of the area is about the ethics. Usually that's a past trend that I am telling you, but it's not necessary. It's not mandatory. There could be different areas also. And similarly, there is this section B, which has got 2 questions, and each of the question is of 25 marks each. Each of the question is of 25 marks each. So this is how this whole section A and the section B is made up of. This is how the paper is examined. Now, if I could move a bit forward and if I could just guide you a bit further about the syllabus areas. So you could see that there are multiple sections of the syllabus. And there is a very important thing which you could see, that there is a connection. All of these employability and technical skills have now been introduced in each of the papers, whether that be the fundamental level papers or whether that be the professional level papers. What exactly do you mean by employability and the technical or technology skills? So like when you go to work, you need to understand the word, you need to understand how to handle the information, you need to handle the spreadsheet, you need to present the information, etc., etc. You need to prepare graphs, charts, etc. These are the different things that you should know. So generally speaking, you don't have to do anything extra to learn these skills. You already learned these skills while you prepare for your CBE practice platform. So I repeat, when you actually prepare for your CBE, you actually learn these employability and the technology skills. You don't have to learn anything extra. So when you see this, you don't have to get worried about it, because it's something that is going to be your skills when it comes to handling the word processing, your skills when it comes to handling the CBE practice platform, your skills when using the spreadsheet area, your skills when actually analyzing the information. So that is the employability and the technology skills that the examiner actually examines from you people. Now, if I could move a bit further and if I could explain to you further about it, there is next thing that you need to understand, which is that what are the other areas of the syllabus. So with respect to the other areas of the syllabus, I would say that this section A, section B, and section C, more or less, they are usually examined in tandem. They're examined usually together alongside the other. I mean, like they usually examined together, but they can be part and parcel of another area of the syllabus. So from the exam perspective, you could estimate these 3 areas to have approximately 25% of the weightage. I repeat, from the exam perspective, you could actually estimate these 3 areas to have approximately 25% of the weightage, and they're usually examined in tandem. They're examined together. Now, if I move a bit forward, so then there is this area which I think is the core area of the syllabus. You could approximately expect 45%, or you could rather say this is 60% of the syllabus from these 2 areas. Then there is this other assignment, which is approximately 15 to 20% of the syllabus. That's how the examination weightage is. Recent attempt, the previous attempt, which has just passed, for some of the students, they did not get even a single question out of this area of other assignments. So it's not mandatory that you're going to get this, but it could not. So I repeat, it's not mandatory. It could happen that you can get questions out of this. It could happen that you may not get questions out of it. So that is completely, I mean, like anything could happen. So it's not like that you would say that we are not being examined this area or etc. No, it totally depends upon how the examiner prepares the exam. I'll give you more guidance about these areas. As you could see that this section A, which is about the regulatory environment. What are the things that are majorly covered up in this section A? So if I could guide you a bit about this section A, the things which are covered up in section A includes what? They're the regulatory environment, the laws and regulation. The laws and regulation that govern the preparation of financial statements, the laws and regulation that govern the auditing profession, not just the audit, it's the auditing profession that I'm talking about. you could see there is something which is called money laundering. In simple terms, that is to convert the black money into white money. Black money into white money. That is what the money laundering is usually all about. So all that you could say is that it's converting the illegal money into a legal money. So basically, the first part of it is actually knowing what are the rules and regulation, knowing what are the regulatory environment that is applicable to an entity. That is something that you would have to talk about. If I move a bit forward and if I talk further, the next aspect of this is specific syllabus area is about the professional and ethical considerations. When you study the paper F8, you do study the code of ethics. You do study the code of ethics. Over here, there is going to be more detailed application of the code of ethics that we would go about. Then there are going to be the fraud and error, which is majorly the ISA 240 and the auditor's responsibility with respect to dealing with the frauds and the errors. And another important area is about the professional liability. What do we mean by this professional liability? When you are operating a firm, so there could be a possibility that you may end up giving a wrong decision. I repeat, there could be a possibility that you may end up giving a wrong decision. So if there is a possibility that you may end up giving a wrong opinion on the financial statements of the entity, so giving a wrong opinion on the financial statement of the entity could ultimately have an impact. I repeat, giving a wrong opinion on the financial statements of the entity could ultimately have an impact on the regulator taking an action against the firm, or maybe possible the shareholders going into the court against the firm for actually causing loss to their money, or etc etc. There could be multiple things. So as an audit firm, as a professional firm, how would you manage your professional liability? That is also going to be an area that we will be talking about. I repeat, as a professional firm, how would you actually manage your professional liability? That is also going to be an area that you would be talking about. So basically, that is what we will be discussing. And the third one of them is the quality control and the practice management. What is this quality control? The quality control is ensuring that the audit that you perform is as per the quality. So when you talk about this quality control, the quality control actually means that there are multiple things. There is something which is termed as ISQC, the International Standards on Quality Control, the ISQC 1. There is another one which is ISA 220, which is about the quality of the audit of financial statement. Both of these are applicable and they actually guide you how the firm-wide quality has to be maintained, how the engagement specific quality has to be maintained, etc., etc. All of these things are something that you have to consider. So basically what would happen is that when we talk about the quality control, you would have to keep this thing in mind that what are the specific requirements, of the different quality control standards and the different auditing standards with respect to management of the quality. Now, let's move a bit forward. There is another aspect which is actually about the concept of practice management. I repeat, there is another aspect which is actually about the concept of practice management. Now, what do we mean by this practice management? I'll guide you a bit. When it comes to practice management, so the audit firm, the auditor, when he is actually operating into an audit firm, so that is actually a practice. I repeat, when as an auditor, you are operating an audit firm, that is actually a practice. So if there is a practice, so the way you would manage your practice, what do you mean by managing the practice? Managing the practice means managing the employees. I repeat, when it comes to managing the practice means managing the employee, managing your clients, acquiring new clients, at the same time expanding the firm's business, etc., etc. So we are going to be discussing a lot of things pertaining to that also. So that is also something that would be covered up into this area. So when it comes to this section A, section B, section C, so these section A, section B, and section C of the syllabus, what do they actually cover up? I repeat, the section A, section B, and the section C of the syllabus, what do they actually cover up? They cover up the legal, they cover up the ethical, they cover up the commercial, and they cover up the professional aspects of the auditing profession. They cover up these all aspects, they cover up all these things that the the professional has to consider. So I repeat, they cover up all of these aspects that the auditing profession has to cover up. The somebody who is actually running an audit firm, somebody who is acting as an auditor, somebody who is actually being invited to act as an auditor, all of these things are some things that they have to consider. So I've gone through these part A, B, and C. Now what I'm going to do is that I'm now going to move on to part D, and let's talk about this part D. I think part D and part E, they constitute the major portion of this audit. Part E is simply about the audit reporting. The whole ISO 700 series, including the implication of the key audit matters and etc. etc. So that is what part E is all about. But generally, when it comes to the part D of the syllabus, that is where the actual audit goes about. I repeat, that is where the actual audit goes about. So let me guide you a bit that what are the things with respect to this part D where the actual audit goes about. So if I talk about part D of the audit, you see general approach to conducting an audit is like this. What you do is that you start off with the planning stage of the audit. And during this planning stage, you do a lot of things. You understand the entity. You perform a risk assessment. You identify areas of action as an auditor. So there are multiple things that you do. I repeat, there are multiple things that you do as an auditor when it comes to planning of the audit. So what you do is that you understand entity, you identify the different areas of risk, you identify the courses of action, or you plan out the courses of action that you would be adopting as an auditor in order to undertake this audit. And then the next step of the audit is actually the performance stage. And when we talk about the performance stage of the audit, the performance stage of the audit is basically where you actually perform the audit procedures and you gather the audit evidence. I repeat, what you do is that you perform the audit procedures, you gather the audit evidence. That is what the second stage of the audit, which is actually termed as the performance stage. Now, let's try to have a bit of an understanding of this. So if I talk about it, the way audit progresses is from the planning stage, we start off. Then there is this performance stage. And after the performance stage, there is this review stage of the audit. And after the review stage, there's actually a conclusion, which is the finalization, or which you could say that the reporting and finalization. So what actually happens is that during this specific review stage of the audit, the auditor, what he does is that he reviews the evidence, he reviews the working papers, uh, he evaluates the evidence which is gathered, and what he does is that he then decides whether the audit could be concluded or there are additional procedures that need to be done. So I repeat, what happens is that when we talk about this is specific part of the audit, so you would understand this thing that this is how audit operates, which is you are appointed as an auditor, you start planning, then you start performing, and then what happens is that you start gathering, you review whatever the work that you have performed, and then you go towards the finalization of the audit. That is something that you do as an auditor. So all of these things that we do from the planning till the review and reporting and finalization, that is all covered up in this specific area. In this specific section. I repeat, that is all covered up in this specific section of the syllabus, which is the planning and conducting an audit of the historical financial information. Okay, do you get it now? Now, so this is there. And then what happens is that the reporting stage is there, which we have already discussed a bit. And lastly, there is something which is actually termed as other assignments. Let me give you a brief overview of what these other assignments are. Let me give you a brief guidance about these other assignments, that what exactly are these other assignments. So what happens is that the IAASB, the International Auditing and Assurance Standards Board, the International Auditing and Assurance Standard Boards, it has actually issued various pronouncements. And amongst the different pronouncements that it has issued, I repeat, amongst the different pronouncements that it has issued, the different pronouncements include ISA. The different pronouncements include ISRE, they include ISAE, and they include ISRS. Now, what exactly do you mean by all of this? ISA, ISRE, ISAE, ISRS? Let me give you a brief idea about them. The ISA is International Standards on Auditing. The ISA is the International Standards on Auditing. So whenever you as an audit firm would be performing the audit, so you would be following the ISA. The second one of them is the ISRE. ISRE is actually International Standards on Review Engagements. IS Hanan, you will be made available this lecture. The ISRE is actually the review engagement. The third one of them is ISAE, which is actually about the assurance engagement. ISAE, which is about the assurance engagement. The last one of them is about the international standards on related services. So you are usually not very well aware of all these engagements. I repeat, you're usually not very well aware of these engagements. So all of these engagements, which is basically the ISRE, which is the ISRS, which is the ISAE, they all constitutes under the other assignments section. So when we talk about the other assignment from the perspective of the exam, the other assignments actually cover up these all. I repeat, the other assignments actually cover up all of these, which is basically this all of this is covered up in the other assignment. So what we would be doing is that we'd be going through the different types of ISREs, the different types of ISAEs, and the ISRS, which are relevant to your course. That is what we would be going through. And lastly, there's an area which is termed as current issues and development. What is it that is covered up in the current issues and the development? Let me guide you. When it comes to this current issues and the development, the areas that are actually covered up are what? Whatever the developments, whatever the new updates, or whatever the new techniques that are being adopted in the audit firms, etc., they are actually covered up here. So we would be discussing, we would actually be going through them. We would actually be going through them, that what are the different types of techniques, what are the different types of updates that we would have to cover up. So this is going to be something which is covered up in the current issues. So basically, as a student who is preparing for AAA, you need to make sure, I repeat, as a student who is preparing for AAA, you got to make sure that you have got a complete coverage. I repeat, as a student, you have to make sure that you are ready for this whole of the course. You don't have to leave out some of the parts of the syllabus, but rather you got to make sure that you go through the entire syllabus. That's an important thing. That's an important aspect for you to actually survive this AAA paper. So complete syllabus, and along with complete syllabus, maximum practice, that is something that you would have to do. And you got to improve your method of writing down the answers. You got to improve your methods of writing down the answers. Now, the next situation is how exactly. I'll just come back to your question, Fatma Risana. Now, so now the question mark that arises is that how exactly are we going to study with this course? So you see, there is this website of ours. Those of you who have already studied with us are aware of this website. So there is this scribberacademy.com. There are different courses available here. So when you are going to be enrolled with us for the AAA course, you would get access to the pre-recorded lectures of the AAA. And when you would get access to the pre-recorded lectures of the AAA, so what you would actually be doing is you would actually be going through those lectures. I would be telling you in advance that what is the topic that I'll be covering. You would be making sure that you cover up that topic once you come to the session. And what we would be doing is that we would be having a quick recall of that area of the syllabus, and we would be attempting the pass examination question. That is what our approach is going to be. You could see there are these accounting standards also and the related procedures also. I'll be updating this area also because I have done the new recordings for these, which are better recording, which are enhanced recording. So they will be uploaded here. So all that we would do is going to be made available to you and you will be able to get access to these recorded lectures and all that. We would have approximately 1 to 2 live sessions each week, and they're going to be 2 hours long. Approximately I expect to conduct 20 sessions during this duration, and I expect to conduct approximately 5 days of revisions in the month of August. That is also something that I expect to conduct. So this is the approach that we usually adopt to deliver these courses. Yeah, I think Hanan, they are good enough because they have got ample amount of practice, exam practice, and they've got ample amount of relevant coverage also of the syllabus. So they're good enough to pass. A quick overview of the book would be sufficient, but not necessarily that you go through the entire every single page of the book, because a lot of things in the book would ultimately not prepare you directly for the exam. For you to be prepared directly for the exam, it has to be like you got to make sure that these lectures are directly exam focused. So there is a student who's asking that how to allocate the time if you are writing both SBR and AAA for September. Well, if you are writing both SBR and AAA for September, then in that case, let me know that if you are working somewhere or are you a full-time student. If you are working somewhere, you should not write down both the papers. If you're a full-time student, then you should go ahead with it, and you should you should initially start off with SBR for, let's say, 10-15 days first. Then you go through the AAA lectures. That's how your approach should be, because that's going to make things easier for you. Yeah, anyone else having any other question, please? Yeah, anyone else having any other question, please? Okay, there's a student who's saying that any good advice for doing self-study? Okay, if you are doing self-study, first of all, there are 2-3 reasons. Maybe there could be one of the reasons for self-study is that you may actually be struggling financially to support for the tuition fee. So in case if you have got any such a struggle that you are not able to manage the financial position of yours, you may get in touch with our admin, and we do have a policy of accommodating those who are unable to afford. So that is one thing that I would say. And the second thing is that no, you want to do self-study just because you see, for these professional level papers, I would recommend you to take the tuitions, unless and until you think that no, the tuitions don't help me, I would rather do the self-study. So in that case, what I would suggest you do is that you start off with the section D of the syllabus. You start off with a section D of the syllabus, try to read through this section D, try to attempt the relevant questions of the section D, and then you proceed further. So that is actually something that's going to help you. But again, if any one of you having any financial issues, any financial problems, we are there to help you out. It's not just the financial elements that we focus upon. We do focus upon the social responsibility also. So if anyone has an issue, you may contact us. Okay, for those who have a September CBE, I think you should actually initially focus upon the syllabus content, and in the last month before the exam, you should start practicing on the CBE platform. You don't have to just focus on the platform right now, because in that case, what would happen is that you would be confused. You would actually be spending your time and effort into learning two things: the platform plus the course. So you just focus on the course right now and then try to learn the platform at a later stage. Yeah, anyone else having any other questions, please do let me know. Yeah, Ria, you can study. Just have a look at whatever the changes are there. Usually one or two of the auditing standards. You see, this is what the change to the syllabus is from the previous session. The examiner has actually given you a summary of the amendments. So you may actually go through these amendments and try to incorporate them. Basically, you may message in the relevant groups. Somebody might share with you the updated study text also. Okay, how many hours in a week? Ideally speaking, Hanan, it has to be uh, two, uh, 2 hours a day on average. So makes you around 12 hours a week for you to be good for this. So because you see, if you are working and you don't have, you can't spend 2 hours a day, you may spend 10 hours a week, probably over the weekends or something, just to catch up things. Okay, you study the SBR in the sequence it is given to you. You study SBR, Fatma, in the study sequence that is given to you. Yeah, anyone else having any other questions, please? Okay, Fatma, are you enrolled with us for the course? For the SBR course? Okay. How do you plan to study? You will do self-study or what? Hanan is section D. Okay, Fatma, as I told you that uh, get in touch with our team and we'll help you out, inshallah. Get in touch with our team, we'll help you out. Inshallah. Okay, guys. So thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for your time. Thank you for attending the session. So that was all about the AAA introduction.